Okay, so here we are with the egg number 5. This one has dots all over it, polka dots with white lines in circles around those dots. So we're going to get the yellow lemon tart again, and we're going to make the round dots like we have before. So roll on your palm to make a ball, and then just place that wherever you want it on the egg and poke it down. And I always like to do those edges. Make sure it's going to stay nice and round by moving that wool just a tiny bit with the tip of my needle, moving it into place to make a nice round edge. Then poke the middle some more. And there's our dot. Alright, so for this egg, you just want to make quite a lot of polka dots, and I like to put them just randomly all over the egg. And some can be a little bit bigger, and others can be a little bit smaller. So on this egg, it's just random. All right, so there you see that one was a little bit smaller. I'll do one more for the video. Okay, so you'll just continue on placing polka dots all over the egg. And then this is how we'll do those thin lines around the dots. So using a strip of snow again, the white, I'm going to roll it in my palm and then stretch it out. This part can be a little bit tricky, but stretch it out till it gets thin enough. Kind of gently, you can go as slowly as you need to. Since we're going for thin lines to get the wool the right thickness, and just lay it where you want it to go and poke right on the line. I like to leave a little bit of blue showing in between the polka dot and this white line. And tear off the extra. Now if your line is too thin, you can always put on a second layer if you want. Just go over it another time. For the video here, I'm just going to continue on, so you can watch me put in one more. And if your line was too thick, you can either leave it if you like it, or you can still get it pulled off. Just pull it right off and do it again. Carefully stretching that line to keep it the same thickness that we want. Kind of a lump here somehow. The wool is not always perfectly perfect, so I just pulled out a little bit that I didn't like. All right, there's another line. We'll circle around the dot. And then you'll just go ahead and continue on until your whole egg is filled in. All right, so here is my finished egg. And you'll see it's got some kind of puffed out parts and then the more indented parts of where I was decorating. So this one will need a little extra shaping and smoothing at the end. So wherever it's kind of puffed out, I'm going to poke more on those parts until they condense down and smooth out. And if there are any parts of the decoration itself, the dots and the lines that need a little more poking, poke them extra too. And I just want to show you the very finished egg compared to my original egg. You can see the shape is kind of different, and my original has a few more polka dots, a little bit more filled in. They'll turn out a little bit differently. All right, but we'll go ahead with the next egg. This one has these cute little flowers. On the green egg, we need lemon tart, water lily, and snow for this one. These flowers are really made of dots. So we've already done dots on a few previous eggs. You're going to make a circle. Get a little bit too much there. I wanted a little bit smaller one. So get a ball that you like the size of, and we're going to put that on to be the center of the flower. And then we're going to get water lily, our pink, and also make balls in your palm. And these are going to be the petals. So each flower gets 6 of these as petals. I'm going to make sure I start right next to the yellow dot, and they'll be touching. And then the petals might not stay perfectly round as we fit all of them in. They're going to be right up there next to the yellow dot. If you want, you can make balls, all 6 balls, and then arrange them before you poke them down, but I'm just going to trust that I'm going to get them all in here since I've made flowers before. If you want to, you can lay out all 6 petals and kind of see what their spacing needs to be before you poke them down. We'll speed up here because this is all doing the same thing. There's 3 petals. And petal 4. I guess that was 5. This is the last one. Okay, so there is our flower. And now we want to put a white line around it. I think that just helps it stand out a little bit. So again, I'll pull off a little strip of white and roll it in my palm. I'm going to focus on right around the outside of the flower, kind of hugging those petals. I'm just kind of pulling the wool into place, sometimes with my fingers, sometimes with the tip of the needle. And this one, instead of trying to do it with one very long strip, I find that I'm leaning towards using slightly smaller strips of wool. They're not quite as long, but you could do this with one continuous piece of wool, or you can use smaller pieces like this and just overlap the ends and then keep going. And I keep needing to stretch out that wool to keep it thinner, a thinner line as I go along. Be careful of your fingers. I'm very good at not poking my fingers, but you might want to keep your fingers more out of the way if possible, and kind of just move the line with your needle or move it into place and then take your fingers out of the way. All right, there is the flower, and if you see any thin spots in your line that need a little more white, just to add a little bit more. And you could do another whole layer, but I think this is good enough. So here's the original. So now you just want to put in more flowers. This one is kind of random again. Just put on as many flowers as you want on your egg. And that can be done off camera. So here is the new egg, now that it's finished. And at the end, just like all of them, I'm going to do a little more shaping and make sure it's nice and smooth. Now that I got in all the flowers. Alright, our next egg is this one, kind of a geometric pattern. So for this we're going to make lines with corn flour, and the same as before, here's the way the fibers are going. So we're going to tear off a strip from the side, and I'm going to roll it a little bit. If you're having trouble rolling on your palm, just keep a little sponge or a wet rag close by and wet your hands just a little bit. Alright, so to start, I'm going to put in a diagonal line. It doesn't matter as much what the line is doing on the other side of the egg. Let's just get in going diagonally across this front side. Then I'm going to come around, and I don't even have to connect this to anything as we go along with the putting in the rest of the lines. We can connect this later to a different line. I've got to stop it there and go back over it a little bit. And then down here, just keep pulling it around and decide where it should end. Okay, so now let's put in another line. I'm just going to go ahead and use a small piece. And I'm going to start it right on the first line. And then it's going to come off of that line kind of at a perpendicular angle. I end up making a triangle or two. This pattern is fairly random. I don't have an exact idea in mind of how it's going to end up. I just want to make shapes with our blue lines that are either 3-sided or 4-sided and cover the whole egg. Alright, so across here I'll put in another line, making a triangle. And that extra end I just folded back on itself. You can kind of tuck it in wherever it makes sense. And then let me think about what I want to do next. Get another piece of corn flour. Sometimes I roll, sometimes I don't roll if it seems like my strip is already a pretty good thickness. Now I've kind of changed my mind, and I think I will connect that first line and make it kind of continue on until I reach back to where we started almost. Alright, so I connected that up with another piece. I'm going to make two shapes at the top that are intersected by this line I'm putting in. They're not exactly, there we go. That'll make kind of a rectangle there. Extend this line. So again, your shapes don't have to look exactly the same as mine. These are all just kind of random. I'm just trying to make shapes that are 3 or 4-sided and get the whole egg filled in with similarly sized shapes, if that makes sense. This also reminds me of stained glass or something like that. Alright, so let's talk about the pink lines there. So each shape that I've made, I want to put in one pink line on one side of the shape. So I'm thinking of these all as little triangles or rectangles, and I'm going to pick one side to put a pink line. And again, keep it kind of random. So here, just going to poke with the needle right up next to the blue line, but trying not to go into the blue. And that seemed like a little too much wool to be starting with, so I just tore a little bit off. You can see I'm moving the wool with the tip of the needle. If you just poke right where you want the wool to go, it will start smoothing into place. Alright, I do need to add a little bit of that back in. My line was not quite thick enough when I took out that bit. But sometimes it's easier to do multiple pieces than try and get the first one just right. Alright, so there's that pink line, and then for the next shape I think I'll go kind of in the opposite direction. Keep it random. So I'll put my line on this side. Tear off the ends, it's a bit long. Just keep poking till all those little ends are tucked in. Alright, so you'll want to continue on and do that all over the rest of the egg, and continue on with our random pattern. So here's what mine looks like when it's all finished. And then at the end, like all the other eggs, we'll just spend a little bit of time smoothing any areas that are now more indented. We'll poke less on, and the areas that are a little bit puffed out, I will poke more on so that they will get back into alignment with the indented parts of our pattern. And if you see any wool that's sticking out or still a little fuzzy, just poke it down right now as well. And you kind of know how it goes by this point in the kit, so I won't spend too much more time there, but you can continue if you need to. Alright, our next egg is diamonds. So we're using purple and pink to make these diamond shapes into a diamond pattern. So here is lilac. That's the way the fibers are going. So I'm going to pull off a little piece. It's more of a square piece, and then I'm going to fold under the ends, or the sides, I guess it is, to make a little diamond shape. Just work with it in your hands till you've kind of figured that part out, and then we're going to put that down and poke it right onto the egg. So I like to do the points first. So I've got the top point now, the bottom point. Now I'm going to do this point at the side. Still tucking under those edges. So once you get the points, then I like to do the edges. I I find that it's helpful to kind of place the points there first. That's the important parts of the shape. And then do the rest of the edges. And after we get the edges, this one's a little bigger than my other ones. So we could take this off at this point and do a smaller one, or I think it will be fine. They all turn out a little bit different. So I'll just go ahead and finish poking this in the middle of the diamond. So it's all the way attached. All right, so now we want to put in 3 more, so there will be 4 of these big purple diamonds. I'm gonna again fold it into a diamond shape, and I'm gonna put the next one, try and get it right across from the first one. So this is diamond 2, and then we'll need 2 more kind of in between these. And you could put the little dots in like we did for previous eggs as your kind of placeholders to get the spacing right. I'm just kind of winging it on this one, but if that helps you, you can put the dots on and have better spacing. All right, this needs a little extra piece to fill in, it looks like. So I'm just getting a little tiny piece. I had one spot that did not get all the way filled in. Just poke that down. Let's see. Well, I guess that one was actually not across from it. It was closer to next to it. Okay, I'm just gonna fix a little bit here. I could pull it all the way off. I think it will still be fine. But what we're going for is 4 diamonds evenly placed around the egg. So that was next to, not across from, but if you did one kind of across from it on that other side, let's see how we are here. Okay, so the next one will go here. I'll speed up as I do this since we've already shown you. This is the same thing. All right, so one more. Fold it up first and then put it on. All right, so they're not completely evenly spaced, but it will work. All right, so now we're going to put on pink diamonds. Let me show you on the original egg. So 2 of them kind of in the spaces in between each of the big diamonds. These should be a little bit smaller than your purple diamonds. So I folded my pink diamond shape and then just put this in right here. Again, I like to do the points first, so the top point, the bottom point, and then the 2 side points. And then I'll poke the rest of the shape. There it is. Speed up for the second one. Again, watch your fingers. You can tack it on and not hold the wool with your fingers if you need to keep them farther out of the way. All right. So there's a little white in between the shapes still. And now we'll need to put those on 2 diamonds in between each of the bigger purple diamonds. Like that. So here is the finished egg. And then spend a little time doing extra shaping at the end, wherever it's needing a little extra work. All right, there we have it.